In the breaking news at 5 o'clock, in the trial of Sean Diddy Combs, the jury coming back with a partial verdict just moments ago, but the judge not allowing the verdict to be read at this point. They will come back with a full verdict if that is possible. Counts 2 through 5, they've reached a decision, but that count 1 of racketeering conspiracy, still no verdict.
And that partial verdict coming into the 6th note to the judge within the last hour. We're going to continue with our coverage with Eyewitness News reporter Kemberly Richardson, who is outside the courthouse in Lower Manhattan. Kemberly?
Well, Mike and Sade, that note came down specifically about 30 minutes ago, as you mentioned, note number 6. The jury indicated that it had reached a verdict on counts 2, 3, 4, and 5. Those are linked to sex trafficking and transportation to engage in prostitution. They said they were unable to reach a verdict on count 1, which is racketeering conspiracy. Once the language, we're told, has been worked out, the judge will call the jurors back into the courtroom. That's 8 men and 4 women, and tell them that he will not accept a partial verdict. He wants them to keep deliberating on that count 1. Now, it's not clear at this hour whether they will do that this evening or come back tomorrow to start day 3 of deliberations and pick up where they left off. Last night, if you remember, right around 5 o'clock, they called it quits for the day. We will be here and bring any developments to you. Mike and Sade?
All right, Kemberly Richardson, appreciate that. Let us know if you know more. We're now joined by ABC News legal contributor Shauna Lloyd to dig into exactly what this all means. And Shauna, great to see you as always.
Great to see you guys.
Sade and I were just looking at this actual jury form. So this is what the jury is going through. It lists all the counts 1 through 5. Count 1 is the hang-up right now.
Correct.
What is so complex about count 1 and what is happening at this moment in the courtroom?
So when we talk about count 1, there's a number of things that have to happen. First, they have to agree on what 2 predicate crimes occurred unanimously. That means that if you have different viewpoints, you haven't agreed unanimously on which 2 predicate acts. Then what we have to remember is there has to be agreement between the co-conspirators to conduct these acts. We know that he had different people in his employment. Some of the people are his personal assistants. I think people are going to have a hard time with that and seeing that. They also have to understand that the conspiracy, it only has a statute of limitation of 5 years. So what they're saying is that this conspiracy started before 2019 and that it continued. All of these are tripping points for jurors to come to one consensus. And that unanimous portion is going to be very hard.
And Shauna, right now, they haven't agreed on that first count. The judge is saying you need to go back.
Absolutely, as he should. The Allen charge is required. Judges do not accept juries with the first time that they say that their differences are so far apart. He wants to try to push them to the center. He's very close. He only has 1 charge, so he's going to send them back once, maybe twice, typically not more than that.
And let me just ask you, just as a follow-up, how does this look? Does this play to the prosecution? Does it play to the defense right now, considering where we are?
Honestly, I think everyone's on edge. You know, people like to say if it comes back early, it's a guilty charge. I think when it comes back early, the jury was already on sync and in union, but when they went over and did the initial vote.
So they've been deliberating for about 12 hours, and we've already had some notes come in. This is the 6th note letting us know that they were hung on count 1. But you see the counts that are up there. So counts 2 through 5 deal with the sex trafficking of a woman who testified under the pseudonym Jane.
Correct.
An alleged victim, and then also his former girlfriend.
Correct.
Of 11 years, Cassie Ventura. That was a big point today because the jury asked for testimony to be read back dealing with Cassie Ventura. What does that tell you about what they're thinking at this point?
What it tells me is that the toughest charge that they're having issues with is the trafficking of Cassie Ventura. Why? Because it's under force, fraud, or duress. One of the things the prosecutors really focused on in their closing statement is that you all must agree to which incident you are saying that this was applied. She focused on the Intercontinental video. She also focused on the other where they were in the addition.
Where she was beaten.
Right, exactly. So they're looking to see, was he just beating her and she was leaving? Was he actually, as Maureen Comey suggested, dragging her back specifically for a freak-off?
The prosecutor.
The prosecutor, exactly. So that's what they're grappling with. That's what they're struggling with.
And the defense actually wanted to put in that $10 million payout.
Exactly. And the defense was saying, listen, this was an argument, this was a fight, but he wasn't dragging her back for a freak-off. He was dragging her back because he wanted them to get out of this elevator shaft. So that is what they're really focusing on, and these questions tell us that.
So we still have, we don't have a decision on that first count. And we're unsure where 2 through 5 actually land.
Correct.
I mean, it could be a not guilty. So then the prosecutors have to come back and decide, well, what do we do with the first count?
Absolutely. Prosecutors will be faced with the decision of, do we retry on this count? And I think that's going to be very dependent on what the remaining counts come back as. Should they all come back not guilty, I would be very surprised to see them retry this. But then again, they have a very high conviction rate in this particular Southern District, so it'll be very interesting to see where they land.
And that count one, it is so complex. And we're talking about the underlying crimes of kidnapping and arson, bribery, witness tampering, forced labor, sex trafficking, purposes of prostitution, drug distribution, which was the focus of a question yesterday. It's a very tough count to prove in any case, correct?
Absolutely.
And you've heard some of the analysis say, if this was truly a criminal enterprise, only one person has been charged here.
Exactly.
We heard a lot about KK, his right-hand woman, if you will, during the trial. She did not testify. How difficult is it for the jury to come to an agreement on count one, knowing everything they know about? I mean, there were 34 witnesses that the prosecution put on. The defense chose to put none on.
And I think the defense did that because they had enough reasonable doubt. Clearly, we are seeing that reasonable doubt at work. And we have to remember, with these predicate crimes, it's actually a two-step process. So first, they actually have to decide on the offense. The offense is either arson, kidnapping, and within each offense, let's remember, they charge multiple, lesser included. So
but they only have to have an agreement on 2.
Right, but listen, so the offense, it could be kidnapping, it could be aiding and abetting kidnapping. They have to decide on which one those are, and they have to unanimously agree that it's that one. This is 12 people who have different views of this information. That is a very hard thing to do unanimously.
Let's talk about inside the courtroom. We do know that it became quite emotional. We knew something was happening after that 6th note. All of a sudden, we're seeing Sean Combs with his head in between his hands. His family was there, but it was described as being a very tense scene. Was this a precursor of what maybe his team thought was to come?
It's really the reality of the situation. You are here now with a verdict. Your fate in the hands of these 12 people, and you know that they've already decided. They've decided very swiftly. Now, people tend to feel like a swift verdict is typically a guilty verdict. It's just the weight and the magnitude of the moment that is being experienced in that courtroom right now.
And let's talk about Sean Combs, a true hip-hop icon and a mogul from New York City. Head of the East Coast battle back in the day between East Coast and West Coast, and was very close with Christopher Wallace, Notorious B.I.G. Rose to the highest of highs.
Yes.
And to see him now in this moment, as Sade was talking about, surrounded by his family, with his life on the line in the sense of freedom, because he is facing up to life in prison. Take us through the next few moments, because we know that they usually stop at 5 p.m. That's clearly in doubt now how long they're going to go. What do you anticipate the judge figuring out to see what we're going to do tonight? Do they stay tonight to try to have that conversation, or do they, quote unquote, sleep on it and come back tomorrow morning?
He's going to leave that decision up to the jury. They always want jurors to deliberate at the pace in which they best feel. And so we're at the end of the day. The jurors may decide, one, if they're very tired, they're going to say, we're going to stick it out. We're going to try for 3 more hours, but we're done. Or they may say, let cooler heads prevail. Let's go ahead, sleep on it, and come back again tomorrow. But the judge will typically leave that up to the jurors to make that decision.
As we take a live look at 500 Pearl Street, and we're watching and waiting anxiously, as frankly the world is now as well. Shauna Lloyd, always great to get your perspective. Hang tight, and we'll see what we know in just a moment.
Absolutely.